Philip is willing, and I do have, if we can't get a hold of him directly, I have his, a few things that he wrote me from his perspective. So we'll be able to share those. But it'd be nice if we could get him to join us. I suggested to him about 2 o'clock our time, 10 o'clock his time. So I think we will be getting into the stanza, and there are a number of places where he has kind of a unique perspective on it. You know, sometimes we talk about the flood that occurred in Atlantean times. And in fact, Blavatsky tells us there were 4 floods, and they each have their time when they occurred. So Philip is up on those things as well, and he wrote a little bit about it. Well, anyway, here we are back again, and let's get this into our minds about the stanza 10, and we'll see how far we can go with it. And everything is, did I press that one already? Yes, I did. Checklist. I didn't press this. Okay. The 5th progresseth from the remnants of the 4th. The 5th progresseth, and from the remnants of the 4th, multiplied and reproduced. The waters arose. Now, right there, which one of the floods are we talking about? There was a flood that took Poseidonus down about 11 or 12,000 years ago, and these were these islands off, nice nearer to Europe, and said to be sort of the last bastion of Atlantean civilization. There was a flood, a major flood, that about 850,000 years ago, in early Aryan times, when the islands of the sorcerers sank, Ruta and Daitya. And that was, that particular sinking, I think, was described by Blavatsky quite in detail in her book. Now, also, there is another flood, I think, about which Philip knows a lot more, that was in maybe mid-Atlantean times, some 4 million years ago. And that was near the battle, one of the major wars which occurred in Atlantis, and in relation to which the Mahabharata tells the story. And then an earlier flood, whether it was literal or a metaphorical flood, it may have occurred in Lemurian times. And these things, the dates on these perhaps can be somewhat clarified if we can get his participation. Otherwise, I'll read you what he said. The 5th regresseth, and from the remnants of the 4th, multiplied and reproduced, the waters arose. All sank and was submerged. The sacred remnant, in the place appointed, emerged at a later date from out the zone of safety. It sounds a lot like Noah and the flood, you know. We have to see which flood Noah was applied to. Who are they? Well, we're going to come back to that, because there's 3 different things they could be. The easiest, of course, is simply the 5th, the nascent 5th root race. That's a possibility. But there's also earlier sub-races that they could be, either Atlantean or Lemurian. And one would have to know very well the chronology to decide if they were those lesser things. No, not yet. No, not yet. I don't think so. The waters dissipated, the solid ground emerged in certain destined places, the fifth o'erran the sacred land, and in their fivefold groups developed the lower fifth. Now, see, that's so fantastic. You've got 3/5 right there in the same sentence. And it shows you how decay works. The fifth root race, or ran the land that was allocated to them, the sacred land, and in their fivefold groups, the 5 sub-races, eventually, developed the lower fifth, or manas. See how you've got 3 5s in that sentence, and they can refer to 3 different things entirely. One's a root race, one's 5 sub-races, one's the 5th principle of lower manas. That's one way of interpreting it. And if you don't know these things, you just look at this. The 5th developed the lower 5th. What? What is this? So anyway, this is one way to interpret it, but, you know, there are other ways as well. They pass from stage to stage, the watching lords recognizing the rupas formed, which means form. A rupa is a form. Nama rupa, name and form. Gave a sign to the circulating fourth, and it speeded faster on its way. That's enigmatic. You know, the more I think about it, you know, you might think, well, this is the 4th root race, and there's an overlap here. On the other hand, it may be around. And there may be great beings who can accelerate around. We'll come back. When the lesser 5th had midway passed, and obviously if it's the lesser 5th, it's not going to be an entire 5th root race. It's going to be well, I'll come back. I just want to get the sense of reading it. When the lesser 5th had midway passed, and all the lesser 4 were peopling the land, the lords of dark intent arose. These are the lords of the dark face. These are the members of the Black Lodge. They said, not so shall go the force. The forms and rupas of the 3rd and 4th, within the corresponding 5th, approach too close the archetype. In other words, God's plan is too close to being realized. And there's no way we don't want it to proceed. If we don't do something, it will succeed. Not a very nice state of mind. The work is far too good. All right. They constructed other forms. I'm remembering, well, we'll come back to it, but I'm remembering in The Lord of the Rings, when the opposition armies were getting ready to attack the elves and the good people, an army was being constructed, and it was hardly a human army. It was a horrible thing. Some of you have seen the pictures, the movies? Okay. They called for cosmic fire. The 7 deep pits of hell belched forth the animating shades. I think there was going to be an epidemic of obsession. The incoming 7th reduced to order all the forms, the white, the dark, the red, the shaded brown. So this is coming out of the secret doctrine where different types of human beings existed in many different colors, even blue, believe it or not. Yes, it looks like the 7th ray, but it could, of course, be the 7th subrace or branch race of a particular subrace. The 7th ray is involved, definitely. The period of destruction extended far on either hand. The work was sadly marred. So there was a great opposition, there was a great interference, disturbance, which occurred well before the most recent serious flood. This could have been in Atlantean times entirely, or perhaps in the early Aryan times. We're trying to figure that out. the work was sadly marred. The Chohans of the highest plane, not human Chohans, well, they're not human anyway. The Chohans of the highest plane gazed in silence on the work. The Asuras, and these are real Asuras, these are not solar angels who are mistakenly called Asuras. The Asuras and the Chaitans, it reminds one of Agni Chaitans, doesn't it? The sons of cosmic evil, not just planetary evil, but cosmic evil. And the rishis of the darkest constellations gathered their lesser hosts, the darkest spawn of hell. Quite dramatic. They darkened all of space. Weren't those the days? You know, because, if this is taking place in Atlantean times, we are there. You know, from the third root race, sub-race of Atlantis till the present time, we are there. And the big wars did not occur in the third root race. They occur, a third sub-race. They occurred after. So we are here. What are we doing? Where are we? What size do we wear? We, probably some of these Atlantean could hold us in the palm of their hand, pretty much, just like you'd pick up a cat or a dog. They darkened all the space. And here comes one of those ... dots. See, he may be throwing fragments in here. They may not even be all from the same stanza, or the chronology seems mixed. From the coming of the heaven-sent one, peace passed upon the earth. Is this the past or the future? Is this after the coming one has come? Is this the Christ? The planets staggered and belched forth fire. Parts rose and parts fell. We're told about the tremendous cataclysms which are due in the sixth sub-race of the sixth root race, and in the sixth root race, the beginning of it. I wonder if I can find, if the word is cataclysm, sixth cataclysm. Well, here's sixth and cataclysm. Brought about a complete cataclysm. That's not what we are looking for. Maybe cataclysms. Well, there's that too. Cataclysms of a worldwide nature will occur during the next 1,000 years. The Christ will already be here, right? Probably. Continents will be shaken. Lands will be raised and submerged. It sounds like what we're just reading, right? Culminating in the profound material disaster which will overtake the world towards the close of the fourth branch race of the sixth subrace, in presumably the fifth root race. So we're still in the fifth root race. We're entering the sixth subrace of the fifth root race, and there's going to be 7 branch races of that sixth subrace. So Blavatsky somehow has the timing on these things, but this will usher in the infant sixth root race. So at the close of this fifth root race, especially in its sixth sub and its fourth branch, we can look forward in the next 1,000 years to great cataclysms. Won't that be fun? Do you want to come back and try? I mean, is it okay? Really? Okay. This will, so this is it. Cataclysms. I'm going to cut that out if you don't mind. Cosmic Fire 467. Whenever you see a good reference, you know you've got to jump on it if you possibly can. The only trouble is that my computer is doing what it likes to do. It is making life just a little bit difficult for me at the moment. It is a little sluggish, and if for any reason I try to get off and turn the computer off, I'll lose the whole webinar. Or maybe I could transfer it to someone else and come back on. I might be able to do that. 467. Cataclysms. So that's in the next 1,000 years. And maybe the fourth branch race is there. In the next 1,000 years, continents will be shaken, lands will be raised and submerged, culminating in the profound material disaster, which will overtake the world towards the close of the fourth branch race of the sixth subrace. I think Philip could give us an idea of when he would expect that to be. But it says the next 1,000 years, I think it says. Okay. Yes, almost there. Every night, maybe one should turn off one's computer, you know, but I didn't do that last night. And so, okay. Here we go. All right. Cataclysms in next 1,000 years. Fourth branch, sixth sub, fifth root race. I wonder where we are right now. I think we're probably going into the first branch race of the sixth subrace. And as we begin to think more intuitively and in a more abstract way, we will be preparing for the intuitive sixth root race. How long will the sixth root race last? Do we have an idea? Well, that's you're about 1/10 correct. Not bad, though. It's a long time, interestingly. 10 million years. 10 million years. So I think that's quite interesting. And we're entering into that period. Okay. Now I guess I'm reading is what I'm doing. So the heaven sent one, you know, we were told that peace will reign for 1,000 years, aren't we? When the Christ comes, Satan will be bound for 1,000 years. Satan meaning the collective ignorant power of our lower mind, emotions, and body. That's Satan. And peace will prevail. And then it sounds like after peace prevails, everything's going to be shaken to pieces. I wonder if that is the case. If this is indeed the coming one, or whether there was a heaven-sent one in the old days, or whether these stanzas are sort of jumping ahead, jumping back, and so forth. Remember, the Tibetan is putting dots between the stanzas, which may indicate that this is an excerpt. Okay. The which race? Fifth. Well, you know, this is interesting. How long has the fifth root race lasted so far? It doesn't seem to be as long as the sixth. It seems to be sort of like an hourglass figure. Like this, you see? So it's a shorter passage. It has existed for sure for 1 million years, about. And, yeah, the fifth root race has existed for approximately 1 million years with certainty. But there's other ways to look at it, as if there was a nascent beginning fifth root race, starting from the time, using the principle of overlap, that the Atlantean period was going through its fifth subrace. So, as Philip develops these ideas, 4.5 is the beginning of 5.0, as it were. In other words, these very nascent beginnings of the fifth root race start when the fifth subrace of the fourth Atlantean race is expressing. So, given that, we might go back a few million years more. But in any case, it doesn't seem that the fifth root race will last as long as the 6th. Who knows the timing of these things? However, do we have Atlanteans with us now, even though the Atlantean root race is over? Well, we have Atlantean forms from the entire Chinese, Japanese, Asian islands, so forth, New Zealand, Maoris. We have Atlantean forms. And up in Eskimos and all that, yeah, absolutely. So we have those forms, and not only that, but within 5th root race forms, we have Atlantean consciousnesses, don't we? Wouldn't you say that in many ways the mass of men has a strongly Atlantean consciousness, which they're just kind of, we have such a stress at this time upon the development of intellect in our 5th root race that so many people are being exposed to that which does develop their mind. So maybe it's not like the pure Atlantean, but they are very emotionally polarized, which is the characteristic of the Atlantean period. So we have Atlantean forms who, by the way, might have Aryan consciousnesses. You understand what I mean? So many people in Japan and China and all that, they have the old 7th subrace Atlantean forms, but they have the Aryan consciousness. So I think in the earlier theosophical books there is, but basically there are many now who are derived from the 7th subrace of the 4th root race, and the Oriental forms are that, even though their consciousness might be more advanced. So we have to look at it in 2 ways, consciousness and form, and there's not an exact fit. Well, there will be a heaven-sent one. It's going to be the Kalki avatar. It's going to be the Christ. It's going to be the Lord Maitreya. Now, that's in our modern era. He is the world's savior, and there have been great teachers. Have there ever in the past been teachers who were called the heaven-sent one? I don't know. But in any case, all of this seems to fit so well with what is predicted, that there will be, in the next 1,000 years when the Christ comes, great upheavals, continents will rise and fall, many will achieve, there will be volcanic action, all of that coming up. Now, it says, interesting, the form was changed, millions took other forms or ascended to the appointed place of waiting. It sounds like there is spiritual achievement during this period, and that they go into pralaya, doesn't it? There they waited or tarried. They tarried till the hour of progress should again sound forth for them. So it's possible to achieve a kind of pralaya where you've done all you can given the present conditions on earth, given the ray cycles that are in expression, and you will wait until your day of opportunity comes. Now, did this take place, or is this going to take place, and it's referred to as if it's happened? This is what we have to try to decide. Here's some more dots. So, is he putting together parts of stanzas from different stanzas? Is he arranging them in order? Are they in disorder? We're not sure. Because now he just talked about the coming one, or the heaven-sent one, all the achievement. People achieve spiritually, go up into the high pralaya and wait for opportunity. And the next thing you know is great beasts are prowling the earth. And this is definitely from an earlier time. The early 3rd produced the monsters. Now, if you want to have a good monster read, go into the Secret Doctrine. There you will discover all kinds of monsters. Matter of fact, if I can find a monster or two here, I'd like to go into the Secret Doctrine Oh, let's see. Secret Doctrine in Word. And let's see, would this be in the first volume, perhaps, of the Secret Doctrine? There are too many spelling or grammatical errors. Thank you. And I'm going to put dry them. And there's nothing here about dry them. Dry them. No. So now I'll try this. Because something happened. Great fiery beings came in after a particularly terrible type of creation occurred, and they burned up all the forms. And I'm trying to see if I can find that passage. Maybe Philip will know. No. Anyway, I'll leave these Secret Doctrine number 1 and 2 here and see if we can reach some of those references. Let's see. No, this is Secret Doctrine number 1, volumes 1 and 2. Okay, let me try again. All right. Because it makes for some really interesting reading, you know? Okay, maybe let's try this. Aha! Here it is. Found it. It goes like this. This is funny. After 30 crores, this is a span of years from the Secret Doctrine. After 30 crores, she turned round. This is the earth. She lay on her back, on her side. She would call no sons of heaven, meaning the creativity of the earthly forces was not augmented by heavenly intelligence. She would call no sons of heaven. She would ask no sons of wisdom, the solar angels. She created from her own bosom, her own earthly powers. Here they are. She evolved watermen, terrible and bad. Bad waterman, bad. Okay, the watermen terrible and bad she herself created from the remains of the others, from the dross and slime of her first, second, and third rounds. Like leftover, I don't know, leftover forms, just things that had decayed. Yes, it does. It really does. But anyway, there were these patterns that she could use, or that the nature spirits who were creating these unintelligent Davic forces, putting these things together, they had a repository of old forms. From the dross and slime of her first, second, and third, she formed them. The Dhyani came and looked. Who are the Dhyani? You know, the meditating ones, the high sons of wisdom, the solar angels, etc. They came and looked. The Dhyani from the bright Father-Mother, from the white regions they came, from the abodes of the immortal mortals. Displeased they were. Our flesh is not there. No fit rupas for our brothers of the fifth grade of hierarchy, right? In other words, we can't go into that, right? No dwellings for the lives. Pure waters, not turbid, they must drink. Let us dry them. I remember, you know, I just looked up dry them. You see, unfortunately, when you have a word copy of the Secret Doctrine, it's not like doing a search in Alice Bailey. Turbid. Not turgid, but turbid. Yeah, it's a different. Turgid means slow moving. Turbid means full of dirt and filth. Okay, the flames came. These are lives. The fires with the sparks. the night fires and the day fires. They dried out the turbid dark waters. With their heat they quenched them. The Las of the high, the Lamayin of below came. They slew the forms which were 2 and 4 faced. They fought the goat men and the dog-headed men and the men with fishes' bodies. It's quite a story, you know. You could make one of those, you could make a good movie out of this. Okay, and so Mother Water, the great sea, wept. She arose, she disappeared in the moon, which had lifted her, which had given her birth. When they were destroyed, Mother Earth remained bare, and she asked to be dried. So this is a phase of creation, which was the attempt to create man, and it was unintelligently done. And it was done without the assistance of those high beings who knew the plan. And yet, since the members of the fifth creative hierarchy had to come in and eventually occupy those forms, it was a, what do you call it, an abortion of nature, a prodigy, a miscreation, something like that. They had to destroy them. So we're going to see some of the references to this as we study stanza number 10. This occurred in a round earlier than the fourth. I'm not sure which round it was. Maybe it was in the very early fourth round, because it said that the remnants of the first, second, and third round were used to combine things. It would be chaos, right? Just suppose you had a bunch of body parts, you'd make a Frankenstein. And that's basically what had happened here. When those negative forces started to put the remnants together and say, here, try these. This is well before any root races, because the root races are already part of a legitimate line of creativity. And this is not. This is talking about an abortion of nature, or what's my word? What's the word I'm looking for? You know, it's not prodigy, it's not abortion exactly, but it has to do with a great mistake. And I believe it would be somewhere maybe in the earliest fourth round or late third round, something like that, that this happened. Now, you know, we say, well, where are the skeletons? We would say. But, you know, in reading The Secret Doctrine about the birth of man, we find out that there were many forms that had no bones. No bones about it. They had no bones. They were soft, they were etheric, and later they developed bones. So many of these forms will not be detectable except in the Akashic records. Did you say? Flood-like. Yeah. Yes. Blob. Yes. Oh, slug-like. Slug. Yes, and even flimsier and even more ethereal. When you read The Secret Doctrine about creation, you just can hardly believe. You know, it is so fanciful in the eyes of modern science that they think it can't possibly be so. And yet Blavatsky, you know, was the keenest intellect, and she had decay behind her, you know. So, yes, abomination is the word. That's it. That's the word. Abomination of nature. Monstrous abominations. We are right here on the earth chain now. We're in the attempt to create man on this chain, the fourth chain. Yeah, that's where we are now. But we're dealing with some of the remnants of the earlier rounds and how they were badly combined. You know, the power of combination is very important. So, here, look at this. Talk about the different kinds of... This volume 2 is so important. When the wheel whirled for 30 crores more, it constructed rupas, or forms, soft stones that hardened, hard plants that softened, visible from invisible, insects and small lives, she shook them off her back whenever they o'erran the mother. Meaning, these are stanzas of Dzyan too, meaning that when the population got out of control or things came out of balance, she destroyed the forms. We live on a planet where destruction and fecundity go hand in hand. By fecundity, I mean the tendency to produce all these forms. Useless or not useless, just keep generating the forms. And in comes the axe of nature, the first ray, and says, only this one, not those, only this one. And so we live on a bloody planet, which is, of course, the first ray base of the spine center of the solar logos. And somehow we are participating here as monads on this planet with its first ray monad. Anyway, I want to keep this handy because this discussion of the abominations which were created is very interesting. When you say, well, everything's just going according to plan, what we see is there were forms of men who were saying, oh no, everything is too good, let's mess it up. In other words, evil, cosmic evil, really has existed on our planet, and it still exists. As DK said, it came in Rome, it came in the era of the French kings, it came in with Hitler and his group, and, earlier in Atlantis it came in. Cosmic evil on our planet, trying to stop the plan of God. The God, our planetary logos. So this is pretty dramatic, And some of these movies that are coming out now, let's say the whole Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Avatar, all of that, they've captured the mythological consciousness of the battle between good and evil, which was peculiarly intense in Atlantean times and has been raised to a whole new level in the Second World War. And we're not finished with it. This battle that's shaping up on the earth now between the lower chakras and higher chakras of man is all part of the same story. That's what it is. It's not just about religion. It's something far more serious. Well, he says it's a mystery, but he says that there are stars, a star in the Great Bear and a star in the Pleiades, which are out of alignment, and the third point of the triangle is our solar system and or the Earth, and it's that lack of alignment which is causing, lack of proper adjustment, which is causing the cosmic evil. See, evil is somehow a deviation from the divine idea, and some of these higher constellational conditions are deviating. It says something, they gathered their spawn from the darkest constellations, I mean, there obviously is a way to access certain constellations for evil purposes. So these are the things that are usually kept away from us because we can't handle them. But as we get closer and closer to the hierarchy, we're going to have to awaken and see what the stakes really are. So anyway, I think that's really interesting. Well, you're quite right about that. It's as bad as it can get on this planet. Well, they knew you were here. It's Mars and Saturn and our planet that suffering is particularly connected. Now remember, Mars, Saturn, and the Earth are three centers in the body of Brahma, who is the third-ray god, tied in with those third-ray stars up in the Great Bear and the Pleiades. So our planet is resonant to the problem. Our planet is like a big hospital. Our planet is the inheritor of the problem of the previous solar system and of the moon chain. For whatever reason, we, on this base of the spine center, have got to straighten it out. Maybe we just can't get the Kundalini flowing properly in the solar system unless we get this problem straightened out. So, it's not very restful to be born on the earth. And for whatever reason, we as monads have chosen to be born here, or we're directed here. So we're in the middle of a very powerful and chaotic process at the moment. So the early third produced monsters, great beasts and evil forms. And I tend to think that's the early third chain. It's not the third root race. No, it's not. They prowled upon the surface of the sphere. Meaning, you've seen some of those. Lately, they have a wonderful way of animating dinosaurs. When you look at it, it's like you're looking at a time far away as if it actually happened in that manner. When you look at the kind of plastic dinosaurs that used to be in the movies, 60 years ago, or even Godzilla, on top of the Empire State Building, and you see what they can do with computer animation now, you can hardly believe the reality of it. But anyway, these beings prowled, meaning all they wanted to do was eat and destroy. Okay? They prowled the surface of the earth. We'll see what they are. Now, Blavatsky has an interesting idea that the dinosaurs did not die out long before man came, but only really at individualization did they fade away. And as I was hinting the other day, or discussing, the man of the period was so huge that even the most terrible dinosaurs that we know about wouldn't be more than a bite in the leg. You know what I mean? It'd be like a dog biting you. So, if you think about how immense the beings of that period were, Philip, I think, has actually some figures, 30 feet, 60 feet, 90 feet, 100 feet, like that. With maybe the most terrible dinosaur there was being 20 feet tall. So, of course, if you put this out there as a thought, they want to commit you to the institution because you're just believing in fairy tales. But yes. Well, they have leftover bones of dinosaurs, but not of these creatures, no. Yes, I know. But we're told that the bones will be produced at the right time. Well, there's big ones that are found, but nothing that big. Nothing that big. But the day will come. The day will come. And then we don't know, how bony they really were, because there were some of these of the earlier first root race and second root race that were not boned creatures. It was only in the third root race, I believe, where we have Saturn coming in and the third ray, that some kind of condensation began to occur. Okay, the watery fourth produced within the watery sphere reptiles and spawn of evil fame, the product of their karma. Now, is the early third the third round? The watery fourth is not the fourth root race, I don't think. I think it's got to be the fourth round. But we'll see. The watery fourth produced within the watery sphere reptiles and spawn of evil fame, the product of their karma. So the reptiles had reproduced, and their spawn was evil, and it was the product of the karma of the original procreators. Who does? Jay-Z Knight? Oh, that. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. I don't think that's it, but I know about all of that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there, the astral plane is really blending pretty strongly with the senses. The waters came and swept away the progenitors, the parents of the fluidic children or spawn. Whatever these were, we just read about certain kinds of creatures, are they the same? Perhaps. The separating fifth. Now, one thing we've noticed in this stanza is when they're using numbers, they're all over the place. In other words, there's nothing consistent. In the same sentence, you can be talking about a root race, a human principle, or a subrace in the same sentence. So when we're talking about the separating fifth, it cannot be the fifth round. Why not? We haven't even had it. We've only gone through 3.5 rounds, and we're in the 4th round. So the separating fifth has to be something else, and it could be the early part of the 5th root race. The separating fifth built in the Rupa sphere, the concrete forms of thought. Obviously we have members of the Aryan group emphasizing the concrete mind and building thought forms. And they threw their thought forms out, they cast them forth. Here, Lona, they peopled the lower 4. We've got another peopling going on here. They peopled the lower 4, I suppose, levels of the lower worlds, the physical, etheric, astral, and mental, and like a black and evil cloud, shut out the light of day. The higher 3 were hid, meaning we've been told that the worst thing that can happen to a human being is that the concrete mind becomes a separate sphere unto itself, separated from the higher principles. This seems to be what is going on here, and when the dark forces sought to interfere with the progress of the human race, one of the ways of doing that is to get the concrete mind to build without any connection to the higher spiritual forms of energy. So the higher 3 were hid, and I suppose that means the triangles or the soul. In other words, one name for the soul is triangles, the higher 3. So there was no guidance from spiritual energy in this use of the concrete mind. I know I just started to read this, but then interpretation started to follow. So I have much more written, of course. And here again, we have something taken out or something put in. We don't know. The order of this 10th stanza is suspect. The war upon the planet had been waged. Well, now where are we? The separating fifth of the 5th root race is already building concrete forms which are shutting out the light of the sun. What did DK say about the overactivity of the lower mind, even for us as disciples? Did he say anything? Didn't he? He warned, somewhere in Ray's Initiations, he said the tendency of modern man to produce an excess number of things, unnecessary, a huge number of extra things, can be laid to the door of the 5th ray, the concretizing faculty. Because some of the 5th ray is out of balance, we are producing all these things, concretizing things in dense form, way beyond what we should be producing. I believe that it's the 5th root race with its cleavage-producing mind, which separates, the mind is the slayer of the real, separating from the higher spiritual principles. Well, some people say, I know a group of people that, yeah, you can tell, I'm starting to talk about it already, who they know the Great Bear is evil. You know what I mean? And then because we in the Bailey movement talk about the 7 rishis, the Great Bear, we're dealing with evil stuff because evil stars and the Great Bear. Okay. Those are gods. Even Algol, the name of which, in Taurus and late Taurus, Algol, which means piled up corpses, that's the name of the star, is a god. And, Algol has a use. Maybe you are somehow connecting with Kali or with Shiva or with the destroyer. Something there in Algol is of value. And it's a god. It's a solar logos of a kind. So when we talk about evil constellations, it's more about the tendency to use certain energies in a bad way because of our structure and our form. So when I see a planet or I see a star in the heavens, realizing what separates a man from the solar logos, I'm very hesitant to say that's an evil star. Now, it could be a star that has energies which are in a way out of keeping with our particular phase of development. Yeah, so when things come in, they are a little bit out of time. You know, and what does he say somewhere? I'm always misquoting it, but that evil is the good that should have been outlived. So it was right for that time, but not now. But anyway, if you overpopulate your mental aura, you cut out the light of the sun. And that's apparently, you know, stimulating the lower mind. The dark forces could do that. And before you know it, people forgot their spiritual origins because the fifth ray comes in under the law of cleavage. And that is what Blavatsky said, that in the fifth root race, man forgot who he was. He came down in stature. He used to be a great godly giant, you know, and he shrunk and condensed and became more concrete, and he became earthbound. He had the mind now, but the mind separated him from the real. So that's what this may be about. The higher three were hid. I just wish I knew the order, because he seems to be jumping back and forth between the fifth race and the third race and the fourth round and the third round. You know, I'm aware if we do this right, we will take this for a month and really take it apart and see where it goes. We don't have that kind of time, so all we can do is point out the probabilities of where this is going. Okay, and then another excision. The war upon the planet had been waged. Which war? Talking to Philip, there was a great war in Atlantis. When you look at how Ruta and Daitya, the two islands of the sorcerer giants, were sunk, it looks like a war, because the good people, the white magicians and so forth, sent out waves of hypnotic sleep upon the sorcerer giants, and they fell into a kind of a coma. And then the floods came, and when they ran for their flying machines, this is HPB discussing this, when they ran for their flying machines, they couldn't make it through the water. So that's an act of war, you know what I mean? Basically, the white magicians tried to kill off the sorcerer giants, and to a great extent they did so. As a matter of fact, the name for an Atlantean flying machine is not a Boeing 787. It is something quite different. It's called, wait a second, I'll get rid of this. It makes for a very interesting, it makes for a good read. You know, it's kind of, when you read it, it's very exciting. You know, you might think you're losing your mind or something, but it's really exciting. Okay, Comments on Anthropogenesis. Okay. Secret Doctrine, Volume 2. Okay. I think it's called a Vimana. Oh, maybe I'm not. Are there, what kind of Vimanas are there? And how do you spell it? No? I know it's called a Vimana. Does it have two M's? No. Oh, I'm so sorry to. Well, maybe someone can look that up on the internet. Let's see if I can do that. I'm sure, you know, because it makes for very interesting reading. Vimana. V-I-M-A-N-A. Vimana? Okay, here it is. The predecessors of the flying Vimanas of the Sanskrit epics are the flying chariots. So there are Vimanas in the Sanskrit epics that discuss the great wars in Atlantis, and they were flying machines. Vimanas, incredible Vimanas found in Afghanistan today, image of Vimana. So it shows you that there were in those early days flying machines. And I would like to, here's another, Vimana. I wonder if Vimana would work. I would like to find that if I could, because it's a great story and it's in volume 2 of The Secret Doctrine. But my computer is liable to protest, you know. Okay, let me try another one. Those are flying machines. Vimana? No. Come on. Could it be volume 1 that Vimanas are found in? I don't know. Let's take a look. No. Well, it's here. It's here, and maybe I can find it a little bit later because it makes for such a great story about how the White Lodge basically overcame the sorcerers of Ruta and Daitya, which were two great islands about 850,000 years ago, and how those islands disappeared from sight with all of their sorcerer giants, and the way was cleared for progression in the 5th root race. So I don't know why I'm not able to find it, because it really should be there. I'll try one more time. Sleep. How many, the deep sleep of Adam, no. Sleep of mental, no, sleep is too big a word. It's not possible. Sleep is sown elsewhere. Dreamless sleep, 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 that which sleeps. Okay. May every, here it is. Got it. Oh, it's a V1. They're calling them V1s, not Vimanas, V1s. So, oh, look. Oh, this is a good one. This is a real good story. Now, I don't know if I should deviate, you know. They're called V1, and the great kings of the dazzling face, the chief of all the yellow-faced was sad, seeing the sins of the black-faced. Sounds a little racist, but, you know, who knows what it was like in those days. He sent his air vehicles, V1, to all his brother chiefs, chief of the other nations and tribes, with pious men within, saying, Prepare, arise ye, men of the good law, and cross the land, while yet dry. The lords of the storm, you talk about the floods, right? I figure we deserve this. It's a bit like eating ice cream after the rest of the stanzas of Dzyan, you know? Okay, the lords of the storm are approaching. Their chariots are nearing the land. 1 night and 2 days only shall the lords of the dark face, the sorcerers, live on this patient land. She is doomed, and they have to descend with her. The nether lords of the fires, the gnomes and fire elementals, are preparing their magic Agnyastra, fire weapons worked by magic. This is just like Lord of the Rings. It's straight out of Atlantis, you know. This is the big battle, using the airships and hypnotic, mesmeric kind of spells. But I was there. Okay. But the lords of the dark face, the evil-eyed ones, are stronger than they, the elementals, and they are the slaves of the mighty ones. They are versed in Ashtar, Vidya, the highest magical knowledge. Come and use yours. He's saying, you know, the king of the yellow face is saying, we have to overcome the lords of the dark face. Oh, I'm getting carried away here. This is kind of interesting. I really like this stuff. Okay. Well, you know, why not? Every once in a while, you know, to see how things really were. Okay. Let every lord of the dazzling face, which means an adept of white magic, here I'm going to make this little, every lord of the dazzling face, an adept in white magic, cause the V1 of every lord of the dark face to come into his hands, so they cannot escape. They cannot escape. I'm echoing. Why am I echoing?
Michael,
yes, dear?
You are echoing because of me. Philip is on the line.
Okay, dear. I'll get Philip. Thank you. Philip has just come in. Just as we're talking about the battle with the V1s. Philip? Okay, hold on. I'll get you. Coming. Okay. Where is Philip? Here is Philip. Okay. Okay. Philip, are you there?
Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hi, Philip. Okay, I was just reading to the group. Philip Lindsay is here, but you're going to have to speak up good and loud because of our connection.
Okay.
I was just reading to them about the battle involving the Vimanas. So we are not very far into it, but we're going to go back to stanza 10 in a minute, and then we will work it together. You can work with us on that. Would that be agreeable?
That'd be fine, Michael. Can you hear me okay now?
What is it? Yes, I'm hearing you.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, but I just want the group to be able to hear you. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Not too bad. So just forgive me for being a little bit excited about this battle. Okay. Anyway, okay, so I've got you on. You're not on mute, but I am echoing in your machine, probably.
Yeah. How can I fix that?
Oh, do you have headphones?
Yes, I do. I have some earplugs. I can dig them out and plug them in.
If you get your headphones, I won't echo on your machine. Right now, I don't seem to be echoing. What happened? Okay, anyway.
How is it now?
It's good. No echoing.
Okay. Well, I'll get the headphones if I need them. But
okay.
For now, it seems to be working all right.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'll continue reading this, and then I'll make you a presenter at some point, and you can talk about your perspective on this. We're reliving the war in Atlantis right at this moment. By the way, Philip, when was this war, according to your opinion, with the Vimanas?
4 million years ago.
When was it?
4 million, almost 4 million years ago.
4 million years ago, he says. The war with the Vimanas. Okay. So here we go on. And we say, let every lord of the dazzling face cause the V1 of every lord of the dark face to come into his hands or possession, lest any of the sorcerers should by its means escape from the waters, avoid the rod of the four, that is, the Kumaras, the karmic deities rather, because their karma has come. They've been so bad. The four karmic deities are about to wipe out the lords of the dark face, so the king of the dazzling face said, let's get all their spaceships so they can't escape. I'm half joking here, but, this is like stranger than fiction, or, a strange thing. But anyway, and save the wicked followers. Okay, may every yellow face send, notice they are yellow faces, so that in a way, in terms of their heredity, they are in a way the prototypes of the yellow peoples of the world right now. In other words, the yellow peoples are descended by some permutations from them. May every yellow face send sleep from himself, mesmerize, to every black face. May even they, the sorcerers, avoid pain and suffering. May every man true to the solar gods bind, i.e. paralyze, every man under the lunar gods, lest he should suffer or escape his destiny. And may every yellow face offer of his life water, blood, that is, to the sparkling animal of a dark face, lest he awaken his master. So it's a big plot to keep them asleep and to keep even their dogs or whatever from awakening them until the waters cover them. The hour has struck, the black night is ready, etc., etc. So onward and onward. Amazing. Okay. Well, maybe we won't do too much more, but there's a tremendous story here. The waters arose and covered the valleys from one end of the earth to the other. High lands remained. The bottom of the earth, the lands of the antipodes, remained dry. There dwelt those who escaped, the men of the yellow faces and of the straight eye, mainly the frank and sincere people. When the lords of the dark face awoke and bethought themselves of their Vivans in order to escape from the rising waters, they found their Vivans gone. Then a passage shows some of the more powerful magicians of the dark face who awoke earlier than the others. They were pursuing those who had spoilt them and who were in the rear guard. For the nations that were led away were as thick as the stars of the Milky Way, says a more modern commentary. Anyway, let's just say that the pursuers, the lords of the dark face, who were chasing after the ones who had attacked them, they couldn't reach them. The pursuers, whose heads and chests soared high above the water, chased them for 3 lunar terms, until finally, reached by the rising waves, they perished to the last man, the soil sinking under their feet and the earth engulfing those who had desecrated her before. So this is a big karmic moment, and I think maybe that's enough to read about at the moment. But it's really the gigantic magicians of Ruta and Daitya, the lords of the dark face, gigantic magicians, they were giants, they became, in a later narrative, the Christian Magi, etc. So this is Blavatsky in Volume 2, telling the story of one of the major floods, one of the major sinkings which eliminated the giant sorcerers of these 2 islands. And I'm just going to copy this for a moment so I can get it into some other context. Okay. It says science and the secret doctrine contrasted. I'm sure the scientists would agree. Okay. So let's see. Just a moment. Right there. If my computer will just operate correctly. And we'll call it the sinking and the flood. We'll call it, okay, just a moment, please. Okay, and well, here it comes. Yeah, a secret doctrine, word, more federation. Okay, it's not. Okay, I'll just save this later. Won't do this now. Okay, now, where are we? And what time is it? Oh my goodness. Oh no, we just have 15 minutes before we are forced to eat. Philip, are you there?
Yes.
Philip? Yes, good. Okay, here's where we are in the discussion. We were just reading through the commentary, and maybe you I'm sorry if I didn't notice. Yeah, it's one of those things.
Yes.
Stanzas of Dzyan. Here we were, and I'll try to get. Yes, the war. Why don't we? We had just come to this point, and I feel as if we should start at a certain place. But why don't we kind of proceed where we are now? Can you can see the screen, right?
Yes. Yes, I can. I've been listening for the last hour, Michael. So what I can do is give a kind of summarizing kind of overview, if you like.
Yes, that'd be fantastic.
And make a few comments on the
Okay,
last
do you have your camera?
Yes.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you a presenter.
Okay.
And then now, however, my screen will disappear and your screen will appear. Is that okay? Do you have, or maybe
sure,
not?
Sure, just close a few things here.
Okay, because if
Yep.
my screen disappears, you won't be able to read this.
Right.
So why don't you just
And will
talk?
my screen...
Do you have the same thing on your screen?
I've got the Bailey CD open, yeah, and I've got the Secret Doctrine open, so that's fine.
Okay, so in other words, if I transfer over to you and you speak up good and strong, we can only go right now for 15 minutes.
Oh, that's okay, yeah.
But then we'll come back at about 10 o'clock in the morning, your time.
Sure.
Right now, it should be about 8:30, correct?
It's 7:30 here in Bolivia, yeah.
7:30, so you're 5 hours early.
Yeah, I was wrong. It's 5 hours, not 4 hours.
Okay, so let's see what I can do. I hope in doing this I do not explode the whole thing. Okay, so here goes. I'm making you a presenter. The presenter. Yes, all right? Hopefully this works.
Okay.
Now that means that your screen should... I am no longer the presenter. Okay. Now can you show your screen?
Yes, I've just clicked the button.
Okay? And if you show your screen, it should show up on my computer. Perhaps.
And I should be able to see myself in the corner.
I just saw, we've got your screen, yes. And if you can just enlarge some of these. Now this one, stanza 9, we already went over in great detail.
Right, okay. You can see it, can you? Okay, I'm just
Yes, I can see stanza 9.
10.
But if you can make your typeface a little bigger in the zoom,
Yep.
there's stanza
Just a
10.
minute.
And if you can go up to the zoom and make your typeface bigger, and maybe if you have a camera, you can show yourself in a corner. Isn't this exciting?
Yeah, I've got a camera.
From Bolivia.
Just a minute.
Old Atlantis.
Where exactly is the zoom, Michael, and
The zoom is up under view.
Bailey
View.
program?
Up under view.
Oh, yeah. Got it.
Philip, you can put control and then plus. Philip, just push the control button and then
there.
Oh, of
plus.
course, yes. Got it. Yep.
Will that work? Will that work on this to you?
No, it's not working, but I can.
No,
I know
go
where
to
the
view.
enlarging thing is. I've done it before.
Go to view.
Yes, I'm there now. Yeah, and it's under
Zoom.
Yeah, I got it.
Go down. Yes,
So
and
here we go.
make it about 200%.
One. Okay. How's that?
Try and now hit OK.
I did.
Okay, it takes a little. There's a
Try
little
again.
lag time. Yeah, there you go. That's better. Okay.
Okay. Very good.
right.
Now,
This
where's
is
the
Philip
picture
Lindsay.
thing?
You know him. He's the author of The Hidden History of Humanity. Okay, so we're going to get it from someone who was there. Okay.
Michael, Philip was asking how his video can be shown.
Okay, well, forget it because
Yeah.
it's too complicated now. Because,
Okay, we'll do it after lunch.
yeah, we'll try that. Okay, you go ahead.
Okay,
Philip.
very good. I've been listening for the last hour, and of course, Michael and I had some email exchanges a few days ago about this.
Speak loud.
And
Speak loud. You can come closer.
okay, I'll turn the volume up because I am speaking quite loud. And Michael and I were talking a few days ago about this. Is that better?
Yes, it's okay. People are coming a little closer to try to hear, definitely.
Is there a volume control on the software for GoToMeeting?
No, probably not.
Okay.
Under audio, perhaps.
Right. I've got a plug-in microphone which I'll get after lunch, but for now I'll just say
Michael, you should organize that.
Tuya, just let it be.
Michael, you have to organize that it can be heard louder.
No, I'm maxed out loud. Max. If Philip, you lift your mixer up.
Yes, I've got it on full. How's that now?
That's probably as good as it can get. Sit down on a chair.
You see, my speakers are going to create feedback with this level of volume, I think.
If it feeds back, you lower it. But anyway, you go ahead, Philip, and speak for a little while.
Okay. So it came home to me as a result of our discussions a few days ago that the stanzas of the secret doctrine, anthropogenesis, need to be integrated with the stanzas of cosmic fire. So there are a couple of really important places where these stanzas meet. For instance, in Anthropogenesis, stanza 7, it talks about the refusal. And yesterday, I believe, you dealt with the refusal in stanza 9 from Cosmic Fire?
Yes, 2 days ago. Stanza 9.
Okay. So there was a synchronization that meets between those two stanzas, stanza 9 in Cosmic Fire and stanza 7 in Anthropogenesis. And what we discussed was that I think stanza 10 has been completely and deliberately jumbled up and confused by the Tibetan, but also the chronology can refer to two different times at once. For instance, when he talks about the separating fifth, you can see it as the fifth subrace of the third root race of individualized humanity.
Yes.
This is when sexual separation and individualization culminated in the fifth subrace.
So let's just pause for a second to make sure people can hear. Can you hear him? Just about.
It's not too good.
Not too good, but he's saying, yeah, we'll have to pause every once in a while to make sure people can hear you. He's saying that the separating fifth could be the fifth subrace of the third as well as the fifth root race. So it can mean more than one thing. Because I just have to, every once in a while, pause, Philip, in order to make sure people can hear you. Go ahead.
No problem. I do have a microphone that I can plug in here. I'm going to see if it makes any difference. Just a second.
Yeah, let's just see if it does make any difference.
Yeah.
You need the authoritative word here.
Oops, okay, can you hear me now?
Better.
Hello?
Yes, better.
Okay. Good, I've got this lapel microphone. I'm just going to pin it onto my shirt, and we should be in business.
Olivia.
Okay.
Good.
How's that now? Is that sounding better?
Better.
Very good. Okay. There's no feedback? It's not too loud?
No, everything is fine.
Okay, so there are places where the secret doctrine stanzas meet with the cosmic fire stanzas, and as with all of esotericism, DK talks on many levels and on 2 or 3 different references at once. You know, for instance, the third root race, the fifth root race. So, but I think it is most of the references in stanza 10 do relate to the period of just after individualization, because stanza 9 is all about individualization. Okay, the one that you covered a couple of days ago. And are you there still?
Yes, we're right here.
Okay, just making sure I'm not talking to myself.
Oh, it's a marvelous thing to talk to oneself. It's good.
So perhaps after lunch we can go through stanza 10, and I can talk about some of the commentaries that we talked about a few days ago. But just to come back up to the war in Atlantis,
Worn Atlantis.
and the Vimanas and so forth. This is an extraordinary time, and it's like a recapitulation of individualization in a sense, because the fifth root race is just starting to emerge, but it's at the culmination of the fourth root race, and of course the deepest incarnation into matter for the entire globe, chain, and scheme. And of course the abuses by humanity of their God-given awakened gifts or psychic gifts that the guides of the race have given them, plus the developing mental faculty, brought about the intense selfishness and black magic that the masters sought to bring an end to, and this precipitated the Great War, which of course is talked about in the Mahabharata. And most of you are probably familiar with this story, at least with the Arjuna piece of that story. And of course, Arjuna's other four brothers, the five Pandu brothers, to me represent the five archetypes of the emerging fifth root race. But of course, this is taking place 4 million years ago. And not long after that war finished, the first great flood of Atlantis occurred, the first of 4 floodings over 4 million years, basically. And so it took about 3 million years for those fifth race archetypes, who were the best of the Atlanteans, to, and Lemurians in a sense too, to synthesize into a new race that emerged in India about 1 million years ago.
So you're saying,
you with me still?
4 million years, it took about 4 million years for the archetypes of the fifth race to gather together and become the true fifth race.
It took 3 million years. So
3 million years.
If you subtract 3 million from 4 million, they emerged about 1 million years ago, as we're told in the Secret Doctrine, into India. And India, of course, is the foundation of all the Western races. But coming back to the war, the Vimana craft are what we call UFOs today. And this technology has been around for a very, very long time. And it's interesting that we see the recapitulation of the Mahabharata, or the Great Atlantean War, in World War I and II, and since then we have seen an increased infiltration into public consciousness of the UFO technology.
Who do you think has Philip?
Go on.
I'm sorry. Are you saying that the Vimana technology is still in the possession of someone on this planet?
Oh, of course. Oh, I think so, yeah. I think the White and Dark Brotherhoods both have access to that technology. But and you mentioned Lord of the Rings before, and I think this is a wonderful example because I think Tolkien tapped into the racial memory when he wrote that book, or all those books, and it is really the story of the Atlantean War, complete with all the magic, the trolls, the giants, and the black and white magicians. And likewise with Harry Potter, of course, is a similar thing that has emerged in our consciousness just now as that harkens back to that time in Atlantis. You also mentioned the yellow face, the China, that could be proposed as the foundation of the Chinese. I think this is correct because this war came about at the fourth, what I call the 444, the fourth branch race of the fourth sub-race of the fourth root race. And the Chinese, Blavatsky tells us somewhere, are the oldest race on the planet, and they are from the third sub-race of the fourth root race. The Tibetans and Eskimos and all the rest of those kind of Asians are actually from the seventh sub-race. They came much later. So the Chinese are very, very ancient. Yet at the time, the White Brotherhood was at least incarnating that race as 4.3, or what we now call the Chinese. And so just to give a big kind of overview, this flood occurred just after that war finished. It was so vast that it covered all the lands of the world so high that only the mountaintops remained, and the survivors that survived found their way to those mountaintops. It was such a huge inundation, and of course this is a universal story. And the Manu of the fifth root race, who was Noah, actually did build an ark and rescued many of the survivors from the Atlantean flood.
Philip, what about the antipodes that it mentioned? That the antipodes were dry.
The Antipodes being,
yes,
being the poles?
The poles. It said, just in what we were just reading.
See. I just can't recall exactly what was you were reading about there then.
We were reading
Blavatsky, I think.
And it said that everything was covered except for the Antipodes.
Well, this is a complex area which I've actually done a lot of research on, and to do with the North and South Pole, to do with Antarctica, to do with the North Pole when it was actually all land and not just sea as it is today. And it's a complex area which would take me a little bit to explain.
Okay.
But suffice to say that I think that the poles do move.
Okay. You have another.
And then,
yeah, keep going for 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay. So the black magicians and the black magic, it went on for a long time. It wasn't, the whole thing wasn't sorted out then, of course, 4 million years ago. And the emerging fifth root race was still overlapping with the last sub-races of the Atlantean race, and then the next flood came about 850,000 years ago, after the fifth root race had been up and running for about 200,000 years, after the first sub-race of the fifth root race, and this of course is the Hindu sub-race. And around 850,000 years ago, the second great flood, or the second great sinking of Atlantis, occurred through the second great flood, okay? And this is where we're talking about Ruta and Dacha. And many of the remaining giants who were extremely well developed physically and mentally, and Blavatsky says something like they were towering giants of great strength and beauty, and possessed all the magic and knowledge of heaven and earth, or something like that. The rest of these giants, the majority of them apparently were drowned and killed in this second flood 850,000 years ago. And go on.
Was this a war? Was this a war at that time as well? Because it seemed.
I would imagine so.
The story of the drowning was an attack.
It most likely was, and I think we're talking wars non-stop. It's the history of humanity: war, conflict. You know, the fourth ray, harmony through conflict. I think the wars would have been ongoing, and there were many Mahabharatas, including one 3,000 odd years ago at the start of the Kali Yuga. But this is, of course, the Kali Yuga for the fifth root race. When the Kali Yuga, when the war was going in Atlantis, that was the Kali Yuga for the fourth root race. In other words, the fourth root race was coming to an end. The Kali Yuga cycle was coming in to destroy. The Satya Yuga, or the golden age for the fifth root race, was emerging. And so the 850,000 year period was also the emergence of the second sub-race, which originated in India, and they were the Egyptians and the Mayans. And this is a very exciting discovery for me, because it fills in a huge gap in esoteric history. And so they were kicked out of India, more or less, migrated from southern India, and also a continent that is now sunk south of India called, that's the ancient Tamil Nadu. and went west to settle at the source of the Nile in ancient Ethiopia. And of course the Mayans went further across the Atlantic, kind of island hopped their way across the Atlantic and ended up in what we call Guatemala today. Of course Guatemala is Gautama Buddha in translated.
Guatemala is Gautama Buddha.
See. And so then of course over a period of several 100,000 years, from 850,000 years on, the other sub-races of the fifth root race started to emerge. I would say actually that the Mayans and Egyptians were much older than 850,000 years. They were like an Atlantean race that bridged to the fifth root race. So I look at the Mayan genesis as being around about 2.5 million years ago, around about the time of Asura Maya, who was a great sorcerer. And it was from his figures and astrological prognostications and so forth that the hierarchy still use those figures today in their particular computations and cycles and so forth. Then the third sinking was in 270,000 years ago. That was the last island, Dacia. I always get them mixed up, Ruta, Dacia.
Well, did
there's speculations.
Did Ruta go first? 850,000?
I would have to look it up. I'll tell you after lunch.
Okay.
But that was where the last sort of demise of the sorcerers. Of course, there were many still left after that, but that was the next big chunk that met their demise. And it's Ruta and Dacia were roughly in the North and South Atlantic. However, there is a speculation that Dacia was actually that sunken continent south of India that I was just talking about. And there's a lot of evidence for this. But then the fourth and final sinking was of Poseidonus, 9,564 BC to be exact. And this was the island that Plato talked about. But Plato was also talking in veiled terms. He lived around about 400 or 500 BC, and when he talks about 9,000 years before his time, he's not only talking about Poseidonus, which was an island in the Atlantic Ocean, one of the remnants of the Atlantean colonies, but he was also talking about 900,000 years ago. Blavatsky tells us it was a veil. The 9,000, the 900,000, and the 900,000 years ago, of course, was close to the second sinking of the main island in the North Atlantic that Plato talks about in his books. And it's unfortunate that 99% of most modern investigators look at Atlantis being only in one place because of Plato's description of the cities, of the measurements of the cities, and of the canals and the concentric rings and so forth. But basically, what Plato was describing was an archetypal design for all Atlantean cities, and they've been found in South America and several other places, conforming to these measurements, or at least fractions of these measurements that Plato gave out.
Philip, thank you so far. Because they have a schedule in the kitchen, we have to go. In 1 hour and 10 minutes, we'll be back. Okay. But I'll stay here with you for just a minute to discuss what we can do, and then the group can come back in 1 hour and 10 minutes. Maybe you can figure out the camera. You're sounding very good now. Your voice is coming through loud and clear, and the closer you can get your microphone to your mouth, the better it is.
It's about 2 inches from my mouth right now.
Okay, okay, good. It's very good. And what we can perhaps do, you can go on with your summary. and then we can go back and look at number 10 a bit more paragraph per paragraph.
Yes, right, line by line. That would be good.
Yeah, that would be good. And meanwhile, you are the presenter. I think I cannot show my screen now, but if I can change you back and forth to I can change us back and forth as needed.
Yes.
So
okay. So where do I find this activation for my camera on the software?
It's an independent process. It has nothing to do with GoToWebinar. So
I'll look at my control panel now.
Therefore, you would not be able to, unless you can show your camera on your screen in a normal way, and you know how to do that. There's nothing in GoToWebinar that will make that possible.
Right. Okay. Well, I can play around with it now. Just see if it's in control panel somewhere.
Okay. Let's see.
Yeah.
And I just
System.
right. Let's see. Allow attendee list. Make organizer. I just have to check something here. It may be that I don't know how to unmake you as the presenter.
Sure.
I'm not sure. So you might have to go into. Okay, wait a second. Make request keyboard. I got it. I know what to do. Okay, if I need to be the presenter at any point, I can do that. Meanwhile, I see your control panel, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, look, this is going to work fine. When I was going into some of these things, you know, well, we'll go into it carefully. You have the feeling that most of this is relating to the third root race.
Yeah. These are my initial impressions, but I think there are some definite references to the fourth and fifth.
Yes, I think that's also true.
Yeah,
and
there were some very definitely unambiguous statements about the fourth and fifth root race.
He seems to go back and forth, you know. As you say, the chronology is a little bit suspect. And
here's our email from the other day, and can you see it?
Wait a second. Hold on. I'm coming back. Let's see. I should be seeing. Oh, there it is. Hidden History of Humanity. Yes.
No. It should be this stanza. I've got pasted my email between you and I, and my comments after.
Yeah. And I also copied that out just in case I couldn't get you, because I was going to be able to.
So after lunch, then we could perhaps we could follow this, and I could make further commentaries on the commentaries that I've made here.
Yes, that's possible. If you can go back and forth, because what needs to be done, you know, basically what I was doing was just going lightly through stanza 10. I had written out a lot of stuff, but I was just kind of going over the surface of it until you would come. It's so interesting because
very good comments. Actually, I was listening for an hour before I came on, and you made some great comments.
Okay, well, thank you. You know, it's so different in a way than the other stanzas that are here. You know, the other stanzas seem to have a much more cosmic, you know, sort of pre-man kind of thing, or they have to do with man's evolution. And you know, so, but frankly, the group needs it because it's so demanding abstractly, some of these stanzas, that it's quite a relief to be able to get into history.
Yeah. And I think also there was a point, you know, I'm very interested in this integration between the secret doctrine stanzas and the TCF stanzas, because there is a point of meeting, as I said before, stanza 7 and the refusal.
Yes.
Stanza 9, the refusal. And I
Yes.
think that, you know, there's a couple of years' work I can see there for myself.
Yes, I think, well, you're the one to do it. You know, I began to realize when I was going through the story of the monads that the first ray monads themselves refused to incarnate
Right.
because it was not
Right.
their time. And so I thought to myself, well, then of course the watchers of the flame could not incarnate if the monads they were to assist refused to incarnate. So it was related, the refusal of the 30,000 billion, or how, no, not million, in other words, 30 billion of the watchers of the flames refused. And I thought to myself, this is related to the refusal of the monads themselves. There's two kinds of refusals going on. And I thought, well, okay, in other words, what can they do? If the monads themselves, if it's not fit, except karmically, if it's not fit to come into the second solar system, because they are largely, except for a few that have a karmic, he described it, you know, they have a karmic connection.
But they came in the first subrace of Atlantis, didn't they?
Well, there are still some that I think are just waiting to come in. Yeah, because Blavatsky said, yes, they did come in. That some came in and said, well, let's, you know, it's so bad now, let's prevent it from getting any worse, as you sent.
Yes.
But it seemed to me, and I'm now trying to find the reference. This whole thing about the 14th, 7th, you know, we got into a discussion about the 7th solar system. The 7th solar system, you know, which is kind of interesting because the 7th solar system, in a way, doesn't exist, and yet it does. So some sort of, you know, synthesized solar system. And when I started multiplying 14 sevens, it ended up there.
Yeah.
Here it is. The sons of power. Was it? Go ahead.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I do.
I think the percentage of different souls that came in, moon chain, earth chain, egos.
Yes, yes.
And you see down the bottom there in the column towards the right, I've got first ray 12.5%, 4.1.
Yes, 12.5% of the moon chain egos. Of the moon chain egos. They are 12.5% of the moon chain egos. Of the moon chain monads, yeah. Yeah. But now I wish I could show you what I've got here, but basically, oh, I've got to run over into the other room. But look, it says the obedient sons of mind connected with the sons of heart. So this is very interesting because the sons of mind are the solar angels, but they could also be called third ray monads, but for the moment they are solar angels, and they connected with second ray monads, sons of heart. And evolution spiraled on its way. And then this is the important sentence. The sons of power stayed in their appointed place, though cosmic karma forced a handful to join the sons of heart, which is the reason we have so few first-ray monads. See, sons of power, in my view, are the first-ray monads. Sons of heart are the second ray. But sons of mind are the Deva, solar angels that are basically assisting these monads. So I thought to myself, goodness, no wonder if the sons of power stayed in their appointed place until the third solar system, then certain solar angels wouldn't be able to assist them. They wouldn't be able to come in.
What book are you quoting?
I'm looking right now at stanza 9. Stanza 9. This is stanza 9.
Okay.
And you'll see it.
I'll look at that again because that ties in very well with what I've got here on the screen. There's, you know, to use the information that I've got on the screen here to apply to that. But you know, my sense is that at least 12.5% of those first ray monads came in at 4.1, and I'm not sure what I've got here. So I call first ray 80%.
Well, some of those were from the moon chain, you see, so there was not an individualization process occurring.
He says here, very large influx of individualizing egos in early Atlantean days, and they were all practically of the
first ray.
Power, will.
Yeah. But they weren't the whole batch. They weren't the whole batch, as far as I can see.
very large influx. So I'm looking at 80%. I'm guesstimating 80% when he uses those words. But
Yeah.
anyway, we can discuss that.
Okay, well, we can, yeah. Obviously, it's a very, if you can get if your camera, if, for instance, if you can make your camera just, yeah, because my camera just works so that I can see my image in the upper left-hand corner anytime I want.
Yeah.
Regardless of when.
Well, I do a lot of Skype.
Okay.
My camera does work. I do a lot of Skype conferences and stuff. So,
okay.
I'll get it working somehow.
Okay, good. All right, look, we'll be back in 1 hour, and then we'll go back to stanza 9, stanza 10, and you can give your take on it, or whatever you want. If you want to finish your summary, you can do that, and then you can give your take on.
I'm done. The summary's done, so we can start right at the beginning of stanza 10.
Very good, very good. Okay, I'm glad that you were able to zing in. This is very good because the group here will benefit from it, and so will all the people on the webinar. So we don't have a lot, but it's, if they knew that you were coming, there probably would be more. But it's going to work nicely.
I'll probably do one somebody on the track. I'll probably do a whole, couple of days myself, I think.
Yes, it would be great. Let me know when it is, because I would love to participate. Tuya and I know, would love to participate.
I'd love to have you there, Michael, because you ask the best questions.
Oh well. I'm just trying to make it clear for myself, Okay, we'll see you in a little while. So now look, don't turn anything off. Just stay right there, and then we'll be back in just almost an hour exactly. Okay?
No worries.
Very good.
Okay, Michael.
See you then.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.